Welcome to the Swanage Years. This is the first in a series of DVDs made by Rail TV in association with the Swanage Railway.
Well, this line, unfortunately, was one of the few that got ripped right up. There was absolutely nothing left. And I believe that the southern region people of the time were going to make sure that there was nothing left to open, because that is how they did things in those days. So when the volunteers came here back in the 80s, what they found was nothing, only the few buildings that you see and the bridges, but the actual track and the infrastructure and all that there was nothing left. So they had to set about and put it right. And they were all volunteers. And I've got to take my hat off to them, because if you'd have sent a load of us railwaymen down here and said, right, we're going to turn this back into a railway, they'd have all gone to the pub and bought themselves numerous pints of beer. And that would have been the end of it. And they'd never have come back. So it was their ignorance, the fact that the volunteers who started off on this project were ignorant of what they were actually tackling. They didn't really understand. And it was that ignorance that has brought today what's actually a railway carrying passengers from A to B. And it really does a railway job.
The Swanage Railway runs between Norden and Swanage town centre through some truly stunning countryside. The line passes within a few yards of the magnificent Corfe Castle, giving you a unique view of this significant historical English monument. You step off the train in Swanage right in the town centre, with the beautiful beach only a few steps away. The working day starts incredibly early at the loco shed. The loco crews normally start preparing the engines at 5 a.m. Fires are lit and locos are cleaned. All the carriages are washed before they go into service.
This morning I turned up at 6:30 on time, which I haven't done for the last 4 times, but I've done it this time. Came down here, checked the smoke box and the fire, but I had to rake out some of the old clinker and all that. Dropped that into the ash pan and raked all that out, made sure everything was dry in the firebox and the smoke box. Then we put a layer of coal around, wood, and lit it up, and we've just been gradually building up the fire over the course. About 8 o'clock I pushed it over. I built up a back end again, let it burn through. And we had the blower on to about 8:30, but now she's on about 160 pounds. So we've knocked the blower off and now she's just cooking for the rest of the morning. So as long as you don't rush her, because a lot of people get to about 80 pounds and leave the blower on, and by that point she just race round and she'd blow her nuts off on shed. And so the idea was just to be balanced and juggling it all.
Matt McManus may only be 18, but he's already got years of steam experience under his belt. The majority of people you see working at the railway are volunteers. Without their regular commitment, no trains would run. If you'd like to volunteer your services, please contact the railway. We'll be giving the details at the end of the programme.
I don't know everyone does this, but that's what the youngsters have been taught to do by Cornish enginemen, like Tony Hallworth and Trevor Knight and things like that. And basically you build a fire in the back end in the morning and you make sure the blower isn't on because you don't want to drag cold air through. And just build up the back, and then when that's burning through, you can see the sort of size of it, it's huge, and then you build it up and then you push it over the fire. We spread a bit of coal around the front, and then you push it over, which I've done already, and then you can put the blower on after that, and then just build up the back again, and then it gives you plenty of substance for the rest of the morning. And it will get to about 60 pounds in race round, so we're sort of cooling her off at the minute because it's only about 8:30 and we're not off shed till about 9:30. So yeah, it's a bit of a juggling act, but it's not too bad. If you can do it like that, it seems a pretty good way because it just gently warms her. She's not rushed it anyway, and she's always hot anyway because she'll have a fire in overnight. Well, up until about midnight-ish, and then it will go out. But yeah, that's the way I do it. It just seems to work. And then you sort of, when you leave shed, it's all spread. And I dish this engine because I like doing that because it's a bit more fun. But a lot of people wedge it and like that, just leave that sort of fire in all day. But each to his own. There's different methods for everything, and not everyone. No, there's no best way really. As long as whatever works for you really. I think this is a fun engine, and it's a lot better since we don't. Well, Ollie did all the valves and all that over the winter time, and it's a completely different engine.
I started on a one-day-a-month basis in 1990. I came down odd periods until in 1994, I think it was, they asked me if I'd work for them. So since that date, I've been a paid employee, and I've worked for them on a regular basis. And I've enjoyed it very much. It's something which is good, especially at the end of your life, when you go back to the steam engine which you were dealing with in your early days. You actually had to work the locomotive, and it was your efforts that did the job. And without the fireman and the driver, the train didn't go anywhere, and that was it. That's what we always used to say to the guard. The train would go an awful long way without you, but it wouldn't go very far without us.
I'm Bob Burt. I'm a guard on the Swanage Railway. I've been a guard for nigh on 4 years now, but I'm actually, right at this moment, doing portering duties. I've always loved trains from whenever I can remember. My great-grandfather was a freight guard on the London South Western Railway. My grandfather was parcels inspector at Surbiton Station, and my mother worked in the railway offices during the Second World War. My father briefly was a dining car attendant before the Second World War. He joined the Royal Navy. So I suppose I have railways in my blood, basically. There you go. You can sit in the compartments, we don't charge you extra.
Oh,
well, not much. You're St Paul's School?
That's right.
Right, you're in the front coach. You've got the whole of the coach to yourselves. Hi boys. Morning. I lived for 60 years in southwest London near Kingston in Surrey, And when my wife retired, I took retirement as well, and we came to live down here. And I always said that when we moved down here, if we ever did, I would do something on the railway. So that's what I did. I trained to be a guard. We actually rented a house beyond Victoria Avenue Bridge, and I just watched the railway sort of grow, first of all to Hurston and then beyond. And I always wanted to come and work down here.
We've asked Katie Singleton to find out a little bit about what goes on at the Swanage Railway.
Hi, I'm Bill.
I'm Katie. I hear you've got a kettle for me, Bill.
Yeah, follow me.
I had no idea the kettle would be so large.
There's a corridor right through the train, so you can walk right through the train. Oh yes, madam. There's several places. Yes.
While Bob
yes.
looks after the passengers, I'll keep an eye on the sharp end of the operation. Train's ready, and we're off.
How many have you got?
We've got 4. 3. One's being steam tested today. There's this one. We've got 2 standards and the M7.
I just love it. And I would thoroughly recommend it to anybody who's got an interest in trains. Not necessarily being a guard, but do something on the railway. If you're interested in railways, there's always something that you can do. There really is.
We have to stop and then ease up, squeeze up and then put the brake on. What we have to do is disconnect the pipe. This is the brake pipe. To disconnect the brake so that we can separate the train.
Okay.
Then we wind the coupling round to slacken it off.
Once the loco's unhooked, we back away from the train. Then run round the carriages.
Yes, I'm right, thanks.
Then connect up, ready to pull the train back to Swanage.
Do you want a cup of tea?
I'm fine, thank you. I'd let you have a go at this, but it's hard. It's too hard.
Yeah.
You get mucky as well. You probably do it. But...
You talking about you, Bill?
Yeah.
Don't bother with the steam heat, Bill.
Okay, right.
The journey from Norden to Swanage takes about 25 minutes.
Dorset got them to violent rhyme. When Mummy tried to hide the crimes his fatherland so neatly planned, burdened by collective shame, a hate that dare not speak its name. The 50s wandered out discreetly, 60s passed him by completely, sailed through his exams with ease, and slid into the 70s, and no one ever noticed. Placed, defaced, and far from hip, a master of the microchip. Heimlich fails to interface with members of the human race. Cursed by anonymity, he's never heard and seldom seen. He weaves his way from town to town to stop his walk from tumbling down. Not ready yet to unify, to ask the who, the where, and why.
Just be careful you don't hit yourself, yeah? Up a bit more. There you go. All right.
I did it.
Yeah.
The little village of Corfe Castle nestles in a gap that breaks the line of the Purbeck Hills.
It was William the Conqueror who started construction of the castle soon after his arrival in 1066.
The castle belongs to the National Trust, and it's definitely worth the puff.
The castle holds an important strategic position in the Isle of Purbeck, and for over 600 years defended inland Dorset from attack from the sea.
And the view is spectacular.
You can discover more about Corfe Castle and the history of the area by visiting the National Trust website, nationaltrust.co.uk. And if you travel along the B3351 towards Studland, you will enjoy these stunning views. You can see right across Poole Harbour to Bournemouth and beyond.
The beach at Swanage speaks for itself.
This weekend is what we call our Branchline weekend, when we try to recreate a typical seaside branch line of the late 50s, early 60s. We have an intensive train timetable operating with a variety of steam and diesel traction and a mixture of passenger and goods trains. We also have a display of vintage cars at Corfe Castle.
Well, I'm a guard on the Swanage Railway. I've been doing this now for, I believe now, about 16 years. Started before, when I came down here, we were just running to Harman's Cross. I think it's brilliant to see it come back to what it is today. When I joined it all those years ago, I mean, the railway was very much in infancy, and it's taken a lot of hardware and a lot of dedication. I mean, some of these guys down here are down here nearly every weekend. It's incredible, really. But no, I just enjoy doing it. I came down here because I was looking for something interesting to do. It's fairly economical to do it. You meet an awful lot of interesting guys down here, various walks of life. You meet the passengers, and generally it's quite interesting. Well, today is quite a long day. It's I got here at 8:30, or to Corfe Castle at 8:30, and by the time I put the stock away tonight, it will be about 6:30. But that's rather unusual because now we split the day into 2 halves. But as it's a special weekend, we're working a little bit longer. But it's no problem. You know, it's just enjoyable.